everyone, how are we doing? It is time for office hours. Let's see who's in the chat. We might send out a reminder here to everybody. Get some people live in the chat. Who all is here? We'll put a little music here as we get started. Hey, Cameron, good to see you here. What are you working on, Cameron? Can I hear the music today? Oh, no, I think you guys can hear the music. Not doubling the audio. I do not hear the music. There's a thing I changed. Hey, Lauren, good to see you here. What should we work on? Let's do some of my Pearson work. Need to get Bot awake. So what should we work on? There was something I changed last time, and it got the audio going through to me. Can you help me with Finance 306? I don't know Finance 306. NFL question and the 53 men. Okay. That's my Pearson, right? Question, 3 questions on chapter So the quiz each time has different questions. And I think I'm coming through the GoXLR audio. Oh, I know why. I'm probably sounding doubled up, everyone, aren't I? Hey, Jennifer, great to see you here. So I probably right now sound, I didn't save the profile. So one second right here really quick. I'm guessing I sound, yep. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Now you should be able to hear the audio and just me. Yep. Sorry about that. I noticed it too, and I was like, I think that is going through, and we should. Oh, I can't hear the music. You're good now? Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. I was like, I'm pretty sure I saw the audio bouncing on the chat while it was doing that, and I should be able to hear this. Weird to me. Let me see on this really quickly. GoXLR monitor and output. Why don't I hear it? Oh, worry about that later. Thank you everyone for being here. Let's log in. Hey, can you do, wait, yeah. We are logged into my Pearson now. Let me open up the billion word documents that we have. When I can't hear my audio. That right there should work. Let's start with the weights of steers. Now with the weights of steers on the quiz part 1, quiz 5, it's quiz 5 part 1, is it? So is it quiz 5 part 2, Lauren? Which one would it be? 5 part 1. Go here and open the edit video. And here we go. It's part 1? Okay, let's go look at it. Let's get rocking and rolling. Oh, I literally found it, I think. Is it this one right here, the weights of yearling cattle? So, is it this weights in pounds of breeding cattle? It sounds about like it. Let me know if it's not it, and we can do a different one. So here we go. This is it. Yay. Chapter 5, or Stat 201, Chapter 5, Part 1, the weights in pounds. Okay, so let's look at this question and see what it says. We have right here, what does this mean? What does that mean up there? Any idea what the very top of this means? Break down what this means. What I've highlighted right there, what does that mean? It's very important we know each part of this, and you see this up here at the top. What does it mean? Who knows in the chat what this means right here? And we'll start throwing out some points. Look, I had the highlighter selected. What? Highlighter. There we go. What does that mean right there? We'll throw out some points for some answers. What does that mean? Well, so it might say what is unusual, but what does this mean right here, right now? What is this telling us? What is the information contained in here? Like you see three things. You see N, then you see something else, and then you see a thing after that. What are those 3 things? What do they mean? What are those 3? Correct. Cameron right there gets the points for everyone. So we have the mean right here, and we have the standard deviation. And then the N stands for normally distributed. That stands for normally distributed with a mean of 1,112 and a standard deviation of 95. So when we do this right here, any weight more than one standard deviation below the mean or less than blanks pound is unusually low. And 1 is not that rare. Like 1 is like, you put an beside that. But 2 is pretty rare. So let's go right here and say any weight more than 2 standard deviations below the mean, which will then solve for that answer, is unusually low. One would expect to see a steer 3 standard deviations below the mean or less than blank pounds, only rarely. So now it's talking about this right here. So 1 below the mean is not unusually rare. It's just kind of rare. So the way they're phrasing this, I don't love it, but we should be able to figure this out, and this is just going standard deviations below the mean, and I'm pretty sure they're just going for 2 is kind of rare and 3 is very rare. So let's use that logic right here. We're going to go to the calculator and go and subtract from the mean. Now, one thing you can do, which is really good, let's go over to the apps really quickly. I think you can do both of these, is you can actually graph this. We're going to pin this comment because it might be very useful. Both of those are good. So go. And now we put in the mean. Thank you so much for typing in the chat. Right there, type it in the correct way, and then standard deviation of 95, and then look right here. We can actually see the answers. So this plots out the normal model for us, and you can see the mean of 1,112 and the standard deviation of the standard deviation of 95 brings it down to 1,017, 922, and 827. So we go right here, we select the following right here. I think it was 922 and it was 827. So we should get the right answer, and we got 100% correct. Now you can also figure it out yourself using the calculator, going to the mean and subtracting a standard deviation. That's 1 standard deviation down, 2 standard deviations down, and 3 standard deviations down. But I think it also helps to see it visually. So going over here visually and seeing the mean at the center, and then going down 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations. Does that help out, Lauren, right there? Just seeing it, I think, sometimes can help to know that the mean is at the center of the curve, and then you go down 1, 2, 3 standard deviations. 2 is kind of unusually low, like kind of low, and 3 is very low. I've got this bump in my hair right here. So 2 is kind of low, and 3 is very low. How does that sound to everybody in the chat? 2 standard deviations away is kind of unusual. 3 is very unusual. Is 2.5 unusual? Yeah, kind of. So there's no exact point when something becomes an outlier. It's not like 1.9 is not an outlier. It's kind of unusual right there. So good stuff. Knowing when things are outliers and knowing how to use standard deviations to the mean and the notation is some of the key parts of this question. So now we go right here and we look. There was another question. Keep those questions coming. William, good to see you here. Finance. The NFL question. Which chapter is that on, Cameron? It's part 2, right? So we need to go over to my Pearson. And let's go over here. I'm going to bring it over to this screen. Ooh, you can see my mixer in the background. Let me actually go here and save the profile. Save active profile. Yes, I want to save it. What happened is I didn't save my profile after making some changes, reloaded everything up, and then we didn't have the right sounds. We didn't get to it in class. What didn't we get to? Sarah, good to see you here. Sarah, I don't know why you're not a mod. We're going to add Sarah as a mod. Good to see you here, Sarah. And we've been trying to add as many people as we can as a mod. So, oh wait. Yeah, we did chapter 5, part 2. It's all the same notes. That was last class. So that was last class right there. We did chapter 5, part 2. Today we're doing pivot tables and pivot charts. So today is pivot tables and pivot charts. And I do have in-person office hours. They'll end a little bit early today at like 2:35-ish because I'm doing a presentation for Kahoot. So let's do the NFL one right here. And let's see how it works. So this is Stat 201, Chapter 5, Part 2, NFL data from the 2019. Okay. According to the normal model, what percent of receivers would you expect to gain more than 2 yards, two standard deviations above the mean number of yards? So when you use the normal model right here, there's a really good graphic we can go to for this. And let's look up empirical rule 68, 95, 99.7. And there's a really good graphic I like for this. Go find it on the internets real quick. Where is it? Here it is right here. I'm gonna copy, let me go to the page with it, and I'm gonna copy it from this page. Copy image, go over here to Microsoft Word. In Microsoft Word, we're gonna paste in this image right here. So this image has the curve fully broken down for you. And it's got all the information that we could figure out from it. And then we could figure out even more, but this is the primary information you need. So if you look at this right here, what you have is above this spot is 0.15, and below this spot is 0.15. This goes up to 3 standard deviations above the mean and down to 3 standard deviations below the mean. So if we were at 2 standard deviations above the mean, what percent of people would we expect to be 2 standard deviations above the mean or higher? What percent of people would we expect to be 2 standard deviations above the mean or higher? What percent of people would we expect to be 2 standard deviations above the mean or higher? And this is because the central 95% of data is within 2 standard deviations. And so 2.5, great answer right there, 2.5 above this and 2.5 below this. And you can actually add up the areas. Now be careful, the 2.35 is only the area between. Great work, everyone, right there with answers. Got some great answers in the chat, good practice. I had some former 201 students helping out. Shouts to Trung and Jesse right there. There's even the skydiving with Jesse level. She's skydived 124 times, I think she said. So really great stuff right there. They were helping out a student yesterday, helping them do their assignments and explaining the work. So I like that students still remember this stuff. So what would one be? So if it was 1 standard deviation, what percent of area or what percent of people fall above 1 standard deviation? What percent of people are above 1 standard deviation? What percent of people are above 1 standard deviation? 16, you're right. Great job right there. So 16%, that's because 68 is inside and then 16 is contained on the outside on either side, 32 cut in half. And the more you do these, the better you get at them. So just remember 68, 95, 99.7. That's how we break down the curve right there. So excellent work. Good job right there. So about blank percent of receivers should gain more than blank yards. So now we have 508 receivers. So if it's 2.5% of those receivers, about what percent of receivers should gain more than that yards? I know, right? Once you see it, you're like, oh, that's it? Really? I knew that? So if it's 2.5% of the 508 receivers, then what would that be? If it's 2.5%, what should I do to this? I'm saying 2.5% of receivers should get this many yards or more. 2.5% of the receivers should get this many yards or more. So 2.5% of the 508 receivers. What should I do with these numbers? 2.5% of the 508 receivers. 2.5%. What do you think? What should we do with these numbers? Because we think about 2.5% of the 508 receivers. There's 508 receivers. Yeah, just multiply. There we go. And it says round to the nearest whole numbers. That should be about 13 because it's 2.5% of these receivers. Because there's 508 receivers and we expect about 2.5% of them to be at this level. So only the top 2.5%, just multiply by 2.5 or 0.025, and that will give us the answer. And then we need to figure out where 2 standard deviations is. We'll show this visually probably in a second. We go to 312.360 and add to it 253.762. What am I doing right here? I'm going where? What am I mathematically doing? I am going where? That would round to 820. What am I mathematically doing right there? And we'll kind of show it. I can find the exact numbers. Let me do this right here so we can see this and type in the mean. The mean is, oh no, I did the wrong one. I typed in the standard deviation, the mean in reverse. So what am I trying to do? And now I'll do it correctly. Okay, so we need to go to the mean of 253.762, add to it 312.360, add to it 312.360. And that's the answer. What am I doing right here? I am going where? Where am I going? That's where I'm going right there. Where am I going? Why is this the answer? And what did I do? This is the mean, and then I went here and here. Because all I'm doing is going where? Hint, I'm going to right here, and right here is what? I am going 2 standard deviations above the mean, exactly. So I'm going 2 standard deviations above the mean, so all I did was take the mean and add to it 2 standard deviations. So round to the nearest whole number, 878 will be the answer. And 878, explain the problem in using the normal model here. Well, we only use the normal model when what? We only use the normal model when what? When the data is what? It's kind of makes sense when you say it. Only use the normal model when the data is what? Unimodal symmetric normal, right? Now, how could we, there's 3 ways to test for normality. What are the 3 ways? If you say one of them, let me throw you some points. You've been answering a lot of questions. What are 3 ways to test for normality? There are 3 ways to test for normality. Can you think of any of the 3 ways? And so write these down if you don't have them and you're working on this question. But there's 3 ways. Goodness of fit. Does the normal curve fit over this good? Low p-value indicates bad fit. High p-value indicates a good fit. The normal probability plot, which is the line, which if it follows the line, it's a good fit. If it doesn't follow the line, it's a bad fit. And the number one way and the easiest way to do it is to just look at it. So just looking at it right there, that doesn't look symmetric. It does look unimodal. That's not an extra mode there. That's just some outliers. So unimodal because of the high peak over there. And so number one way to see if something is normal is to just look at it right there. Cameron got it right there. More points in the chat. Just look at it and be like, that doesn't look normal to me. And we usually do that to start, and then we run some tests to see how normal it is. So the data is strongly skewed to the right. That's all we need to read. Oh no, no. It's such a good question. We should get it all correct. This is like, some questions are amazing. Thank you, Mike Pearson. They were here talking to us earlier. Some questions are amazing, some questions are good, some questions are meh. This is one of those questions that really walks through and does a great job with knowing the mean, standard deviation, all that good stuff. Company customer service hotline. Yep, it's the quiz, is it, Lauren? We'll put up the 2 hours later. It's the quiz, is it? It is the quiz. Do the full quiz. A lot of quiz questions. Awesome. I got like 8 hours of sleep last night. Still tired though. Let's see, chapter 5, part 1, quiz. And company's customer service hotline. Might be, I think it's, here it is, company's customer hotline. Company's customer hotline for customer service, something like that. Okay, they're going to change the data, it looks like. So they're doing shifting and scaling. That's what this concept is right here, the idea of shifting and scaling. So a company's customer service. Okay, so the original data has a median of 4.2 and an IQR of 2.7. What is the median? What is the IQR? What is the median? What is the IQR? Let's copy this question. I just want to know in the chat, what is a median? What is an IQR? What is a median? What is an IQR? So in the chat, what is a median? What is an IQR? These are the only important parts of these questions. The other context. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I could hear the rock, and now I can't. What have I done? The median is the 50th percentile of the data, and the IQR is the middle 50%. Great job, Cameron, right there. Excellent work. So with this, we know that the median is going to be here. We'll do that for median. The IQR is going to be here. The IQR has a length of 2.7. And the median, and that's not where the IQR is at. The IQR is a distance, the range of the middle 50%. So it's the range of the middle 50%, the interquartiles, 2 quarters, their range. And then here we have 4.2 is going to be the median or the 50th percentile. If the company were to describe the distribution of these calls in seconds instead of minutes, so what would happen here to the data? Well, we would just multiply it by 60, and that is going to change it to 252, I think. I'll double check these numbers. That's going to be the new median, and the new IQR will be, and then that's 42, so I think it's 162. Let's check these numbers and show how we got them. All we're doing is multiplying the original numbers by 60, so 4.2 times 60, good to go. And then 2.7 times 60, good to go. So those are the original numbers multiplied by 60. In an effort to speed up the customer service process, they decide to streamline the series of push buttons, cutting the time by 60 seconds. Now, by 30 seconds. So now we're still doing it in seconds right here, but we want to know the new median and IQR in seconds. But if you speed things up, would that move the center, tighten the distribution, or both? If you speed things up, would that move the center, tighten the distribution, or both? If you're saying it would move the center, you're saying the distribution would shift. If you're saying it would tighten things up, you're saying it would make the distribution tighter. If you're saying both, you're saying it would tighten it and move it. So if you speed things up, imagine it would just move the center, right? So it's like if you had runners, and your runners finish a race in something like this time right here, where these runners are a little bit slower over here. And this is the time it takes. But if you had all your runners speed up, it would just move how fast they are. If they all sped up by 30 seconds. So if they slowed down, it wouldn't tighten up the distribution like this right here would widen the distribution, and this would tighten it if we brought it in tight right here. So all this is doing is moving the center by speeding up the process. So all that would change here is the what if we write out the answer to the last part of this. All that would change here, because mathematically it's going to look more like this, all that's going to change here is we'd have a new what. All that's going to change here is we'd have a new what, because we sped up the process. New median. Exactly. Great job, Lauren, right there. New median. Medican. New median. And great job, everyone listening in, because the spread of it didn't change. All that we did was speed up the process. And there it is right there. That's a shift to the process. Scaling changes the kind of spread of the distribution, which is multiplying and dividing, which also changes the median, as you can see right here with the data, because you're putting it in a new context in terms of seconds. So these are the answers to the question. I'm going to put over here on this screen so I can see them. And I'll just type them in. We have done the question. Great question. Now I'm going to say this is a good question. We don't put a lot of this on the test. So it's not bad knowledge, but preparing for the test, I wouldn't review this part of it a ton of times. Did I do all the scaling, shifting correct? Did. What's another? How'd you get 222? Because that is the new what. 222, and I kind of drew it a little bit visually right here. 222 is the new what, found by doing what? Now I'll highlight some numbers. Does that make sense, Lauren, right there? I'll zoom in on a little bit more. 222 is the new median because we sped up the process by 30 seconds. 53 downhill, cool. Yep, median, and not multiply by 30, subtract, because we're speeding it up. Like everything got 30 seconds faster. So it did take usually 252 seconds, but we sped up the process by 30 seconds. So everything's 30 seconds faster and it shifts downward 30 seconds, but it's everything. So the spread of the data didn't change because everything just shifted over this way. It's like, like with runners, if everyone speeds up by a minute, then we would just have an average team time that is 1 minute lower Yep, no, good questions right there, Lauren. Thank you for asking. Please, anything I do on here, because the biggest bummer to me, we'll go to the main screen. And then we've got Cameron's question. The biggest bummer to me is when I finish a question or I do a bunch of work. We do a whole class, and I'm like, any questions when people are asking them? And then at the end of class, someone's like, I understood nothing. And I'm like, no! That's always the worst. I mean, I want them to say that if they didn't, but I'd prefer people say it during the question, during the assignment, but I'll get comments at the end like, none of this makes sense. I'm like, well, what part? Where doesn't it make sense? But you're like, no, Cameron, just tell me, because probably other people are lost too. Chapter 5 is a tough chapter. Rewatch the whole video. Did it help out? I'm hoping it helped. Did it help? Please tell me truthfully. You can be like, no, it didn't help. Chapter 5 is a really tough chapter. Oh, thank you, Cameron. You're always free to tell me it didn't help, and then I'll try to do better. Chapter 5 is not an easy chapter. Not easy. And so I totally understand when people are like, I just don't get chapter 5. And I'm like, well, we're gonna practice it. We're gonna get it done. And I really think one of the best ways to do it right here is to come to office hours, ask these questions. Yeah, the Z-scores. Yeah, let's do that here after this one. And so we're gonna put this one in the notes. We're rocking and rolling. And thank you to everyone who's here answering questions. I just want this to be an interactive thing, and you make it interactive. 53 men. Let's go check out this question right here. Okay, we've got 53 men completed the men's alpine downhill part of the super combined, blah, 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 blah. They finished, the winner finished with 100.25 seconds. The accompanying table lists all the times, complete parts A through D. Here's their times below, and you can see them. Now, an important thing to notice about these times is there's a lot of times that start with 10 what? Like, tell me there's a lot of times here that start with 10 what? Chapter 5, yeah, Forster, you got it, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. There's a lot of times here that start with 10 what? You don't have to, don't worry, there's not a perfect answer for this. There's a lot of times that start with 10 what? Okay, there's a lot that start with 10 what? 101, 102, 103, and then there's less towards, so that means this is where the mode's gonna be. Does that make sense? 101, 102, 103, that seems to be where the mode is, because that's the most common area of data. So we should see a peak in the data around that area. So we can kind of visualize like, oh, there's a lot of data around 102 or so. And then it's gonna have a right skew because look at this. There's a pull towards the right side right here, but it's built up around here if you go through the data because it's in order. So it's probably a little bit right skew. So if we kind of cheat and go down here, which one of these looks like the right answer? A, B, C, or D? Remember we said it's built up around 102. A, B, C, or D. It's built up around 102. We just, you put it into jump. Yeah, we can do that too. We probably could. No, Cameron, 100 points right there. And it is answer C. Jump will show you the right answer. Just copy paste into jump, paste without column names, and you can get it. The mean time was this. With a standard deviation of this, if the normal model is appropriate, what % of times will be greater than this? Okay, so here's what they do with this question. With this question, they give you an exact standard deviation above or below the mean. So let's figure out right here, how many standard deviations above or below the mean is 108.14? Does anyone know? It's a very exact number. So we take 108.14 observation minus mean, divide by standard deviation. Whoa, they didn't give it an exact number these days. Dun, dun, dun. I think we have to use the applet. So this right here is not an exact number. I thought they did. I think the older version of it used to. We're going to have to go to the applet, which is pinned at the top of the screen. So go to the new applet. Thank you to Adam Spanbauer right here who created this. So let's go over here. And what you can actually do is you can actually enter in the mean. So we're going to enter in the mean. And if you're looking for the applet, it's pinned right now. If you look at the top of your comments, it is pinned. So we're going to enter in the mean of 103.90, the standard deviation of 2.35, and then we're going to go to find the probability, which is going to be a p-value right here, or rather a probability using the value. And the value is 108.14. 0.14, and we want to know what percent of times will be greater than that. So we go to above, and then we ask it for how many decimals it wants, and there it is. So let me show how to do this again. Put in your mean, put in your standard deviation, put in the observed value. Now what I did a moment ago is I found the z-score. How could I put in this number and have it return the right answer, but use the z-score? What will the mean and standard deviation need to be if I'm using z-scores? This is a good theory question because you can also solve it by getting the z-score, but your mean and standard deviation now need to be set to what? If you're using z-scores, great job, Cameron, right there, you have to go here and put in 0, 1. And notice the answer is what? 0 and 1, good answer is William right there, but 0, 1, points for all answers. Your answers are what? Your answers are the what now? Check out this, look at that answer, and then look at this answer. See the answer at the top of the screen with the p equals this? Here's the other way I did it, and here's this way I did it. They're the same. So you have, I call this the context answer, where we put in the mean, the standard deviation from the problem, and the actual data value of 108.41. But you could always turn it into a z-score, but then the curve has to have a 0, 1 for the standard normal curve. So this is called the standard normal right there, because it has a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1, and you can use the z-scores on it, or you can use the context right here and find the answer with the context. Either way, the answer is 4.44. So same answer, different way of doing it. So round to 1 decimal, 4.4%. What percent of times are actually greater than? And what was the time exactly? 108.41. And so let's take a screenshot of this. Let me take another screenshot. I don't like that one. I don't like the new snipping tool. I need to do some adjustments to it. And the time in the thing is 108.41. 108.41. Why am I putting a line right there? Why did I put a line right there? You're welcome, Sarah. I think you have a question next, right? Why did I put a line right there? Remember 108.41? There's 53 times right here. Why did I put a line right there? Then why am I highlighting these? Why did I put a line there? 108.41, right? I put a line right there. Those are where it's greater than 108.41. So that is the time, that's where 108.41 would be, right there. And then these are the times greater. So the answer is, and it told us there were 53 times, 5 over 53, which is something like 9.4% or 9.6, probably closer to 9.6. So 5 divided by 53, still went with my 9.4 guess, 9.4%. 5 divided by 53, because it says there are 53 right there, so 9.4%. Why do these two percentages not agree? Well, it's because the data is not what? You can look at the data right here and see that the data is not what? The two percentages do not agree because we assumed the data was what to start. It's skewed to the right, and these numbers only work for the normal model, so we assumed it was a normal model, and it wasn't, so that's why they didn't work. The distribution is not unimodal symmetric. Well, it is unimodal. It's not uniform. It is not uniform, but that's not why. Standard deviation size doesn't matter. It's not both of these quantities. It is unimodal, but it is not symmetric. It's not normal. That's what I would prefer to say. So I'd prefer to say it's not normal, but the normal is unimodal and symmetric. What can be seen from the histogram? The distribution is clearly skewed to the what? What can be seen from the histogram? The distribution is clearly skewed to the what? And you know he's here every day at Stat Tool 1, the Monster Man. You can't get your skew wrong with the Monster Man. We review the Monster Man all the time, right to the high, left to the low, whatever way the Monster Man's tail goes. Right to the high, this is the high side. Left to low, this is the low side. Right over here is the high side. Left is the low side. I will disappear. That is the left side. So right to the high, left to the low, whatever way the Monster Man's tail goes. Left meaning low numbers, high numbers, right to the high. Right to the high, left to low, whatever way the monster man's tail goes. I've literally had PhD students memorize this. It's little things like that. You start to remember it, you get it correct. Good work right there. A little tricky of a question. Is it making more sense, Cameron? I'm hoping like you start doing the problems, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. We did that. But it's hard to put all the knowledge together and to compose it all. It's a lot. That's why I warned everyone at the start here. Chapter 5 is a tough one. And Forrester measured. Let's do the Forrester measured question. Thank you, Sarah. Not the easiest of chapters. Forrester measured. That was a really good one right there. Back to 201. We've been bouncing around between chapter 5, part 1 and 2. A Forrester measured. Okay, we literally have gone like part 1, part 2, part 1, part 2, part 1, part 2. I'll take it though, because these are great questions. Makes more sense. Nice. That's what I like to hear. It is tough, and a lot of people wait. It bums me out. A lot of people wait till the night it's due, and then they're just like, I have no idea how to do any of this. Because you see it in class, and then maybe you go a few days without doing it, and you're like, what did we do? What did Brian say? What is chapter 5? I don't understand. Forrester measured. I think it's towards the end right here. That's the rivet ones. Good one too. Forrester measured. I really like this question. So a Forrester measured the widths of trees or the diameter of trees. And let's rewrite this data right here as a new way of writing it, starting with capital N. So go ahead and start rewriting this data right here with a capital N to begin with. So that this information up here, I want you to rewrite it in the chat. To summarize it, I want you to rewrite it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to steal this graphic right here, bring it over here to this screen. I want you to rewrite that data right there. And what I'm asking you to do is just use a capital N and then go and take this number right here, which is the mean, and the standard deviation. I want you to do it with notation for the moment. Remember that we're saying it is normally distributed. Here's the normal model right here. That's the capital N of it. This is the mean. This is the standard deviation. So try rewriting it. Just put it in the chat right there. You should have capital N, and then what value, what value. Capital N, what value, what value. Supposed to be, oh, just email me on that, Lauren, I'll fix it. Email me, I'll fix it. That's a small error. Say, hey, Brian, or Discord, DM me on Discord and say, hey, Brian, you'll just remind me. Be like, hey, Brian, you said you'd fix this for me. And you can DM me on that. And so just be like, yes, great job right there, William. Excellent job, William. Some points for you right there. As long as you're not asking anything, I usually try not to do like, what's my this on Discord. I don't want to answer like, what's my grade from like someone who DMs me. But if someone's like, hey, Brian, you said you would fix this for me, and I'll say, okay. Because, I mean, I'm saying it here, so it's kind of public-ish because you said you missed it. So, but that's how I do that. But usually for more personal stuff, I usually email. If it's like, hey, can you tell me these grades and stuff, I usually go via email. I would say, oh, email me, because Discord's great, but even though you verify in Discord, I usually want to go just email, just like 100%. But if it's like, hey, you said you'd fix this, okay, got it done, good to go. Okay, so now what we have right here is we have the mean of 10.5 and the standard deviation of 4.2. So watch this. We're going to go to the curve right here and write the numbers, 10.5, and then why am I writing this number right there? Explain to me in the chat why I wrote that number. Because if you know that, you'll know why I'm writing this next number and this next number. So why did I write that number right there? Anybody in the chat can say like, oh, you wrote it because of this. Negative. Oof. It's going to be negative, basically, negative 2.1? I think it's about that. One standard deviation above the mean. It's one standard deviation above the mean. So let me see here, 10.5 minus 4.2 minus 4.2 minus, 1 minus 4.2. Oh, it's that. I can't do that today. So Is it? No, it's not. I did, right? So for 2.1 minus 4.2. Yeah. I was like, it's not bad. I don't know what I typed in. Okay, so as long as I did these numbers the correct way, what we should do now, and I just went up and down going standard deviations, we should be able to go over to this problem right here and take a look at it and see which graphic kind of looks like this. So here's our graphic on the side, and you can see the 68 in the center. So this one is wrong because 68 should be in the center. 68, 95, 99.7, 10.5 should be at the center. That makes this graphic the answer. Now you can usually use this graphic for a lot of the answers, but think the middle 95% is within plus or minus 2 standard deviations. And you can really see it on the graphic they give you right here. 95 is plus or minus 2 standard deviations, 2.1 to 18.9. That's the middle 95 is within plus or minus 2 standard deviations. So 2.1 to 18.9. And now we go down, and what percent of trees should have a diameter below 6.3? So 6.3 has a z-score of what? 6.3 has a z-score of what? 6.3 has a z-score of what? We're talking about right here. 6.3 has a z-score of what? -1. Great job. The middle 68% is within this area right here, meaning that below here is how much area? Below here is how much area? If 68% is between there, then below there is how much? Remember, 32 outside. Whoa, I'm frozen? Oh no, I think I hit the hotkey that freezes my camera, or the camera's not working right now. Well, I hit the hotkey that does that. I'm going to disappear from the screen for now. Might have to even reset the computer. 32 is on the outside, and so 16 would be on either side. Does that make sense? 32 outside, 16 either side. And you can add up the areas there, but it'd be 16 below that point. Once again, knowing these numbers, drawing them out is a huge thing to do. Helps out a lot with these questions. Now we have between 14.7 and 18.9. Try to fix that here in a moment, because I should be able to fix it. 14.7 to 18.9. Let's go back to our drawing. And 14.7 to 18.9, the answer is kind of obvious. Well, because it shows it on the screen. If you didn't know it, we found out that this was 16 a moment ago, and this is 2.5 because the outside of 95 is 2.5 on either side. As in, 95% of areas contained within plus or minus 2 standard deviations, 2.5 on either side. Subtract the arrows from each other, and you will get the number right here for the area between those two numbers. So the answer to this one is 13.5, and this graphic right here is a huge help. Does that make sense, Sarah? How are you doing on this one, Sarah? Are these answers making sense? I'm trying to show it hopefully multiple ways, but breaking down the curve into these percentages is a huge help. And I ask people to draw this when they start the test. You can't have this when you start the test, but you can draw it while you're taking the test. You just can't bring notes to the test. But anything you know that you can write down during the test, you can draw this and use this on the test to figure out answers. You just can't bring it to the test. We can't stop you from drawing during the test, though. So it's like, hey, if you can draw this out and you know how to do it, that's knowledge you have. So I highly suggest drawing this out. I'm going to even make a taking test one, acing test one tips video. So let me maybe make that video here. Not today, but we'll make it before the test. Like how to ace test one. And then I want to know if people watch the video and they ace test one. That would be really cool. Okay, so that is 13.5. Yeah, I think that'd be really good. Like my tips, what I think people need to do to ace it. What percent of trees have diameters over 14.7? We just found out 14.7 is a z-score of 1, so the answer is 16. But let's show that here visually by going back. And 14.7 has a z-score of 1. Remember, 68% is inside of here. And so we would have 16% here because 32% is outside. And you have to look at the curve and figure out the numbers. I would draw it out. I'd practice it. Unless I've made an error, I think we're good. I think we're good. Yeah, okay. I just kept getting like 16. Okay, so I'm gonna try to fix my camera real quick. Okay, we're putting on just a little chill music. Well, Brian tries to fix the camera. I'm just paused right there looking down. Okay, settings, let me go to my macros. Hotkeys, where's the pause? Here we go, hotkeys. I thought I had a hotkey macro pause. Did the camera just go crazy? My last class, my last math class freshman year made us set up our phone and webcam. Are we using our webcam? It's just your webcam, just your webcam. That's only it. Let me go look at the NDI cameras here. We'll get to my NDI cameras. Of course, something's gonna go crazy. NDI. They fixed this poor class. It was horrible. I'm sorry. It's so hard to stop cheating, and you're kind of stuck a lot of times because you can't stop everything. You can just set up more and more things to stop people, but eventually people find ways around it, or you start getting false positives. It's really a never-ending battle, and it's not fun from our side. So we handle it to the best of our abilities, and yeah, there's only so much we can do. Oh, here we go. Drop the video camera. NDI camera 1. Not showing right now. Let me try the other camera, see what that does. Oh, the other camera's frozen too. Well, that's not good. No, I could hear everyone. You all had to be unmuted? So you were like taking it in a live classroom. Everyone unmuted. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to reset before, but that's, well, let me go to the camera source and try refreshing it. Okay, so let me go over to the camera. You might not hear me on this screen. Camera green screen. I have no idea. This is really odd. That would be bad for 300 students here. Oh my gosh, it'd be crazy. People coughing, or their mom comes in. They're like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "I'm taking a test, mom." And someone's like, "Oh my gosh." And everyone's like, "Please don't talk." And someone else is like, "Please don't react to them talking." Everyone just like starts reacting to reacting to reacting to reacting. It just becomes a never-ending cycle of comments. And you're like, "No, everybody, no. We can't all be talking. It can't be." I had NDI pulled up. We might reset here. We might end office hours a tiny bit early. And I probably need to reset. But did people get some work done? How are people doing? Feeling a little bit better as Brian just stares down at the screen. Which I reset things right here. So I'm going to have to reset the computer now. Be like, "Why, computer? Why are you angry at me? What happened?" I'll probably reset, try to figure out what's going on. So I don't have to call over people. NDI webcam is showing nothing on my NDI webcam. Did they like break? And there's no source. Like showing no video. Huh. F in the chat. Well, the webcams apparently. Well, I'm going to end the stream here, and then we'll be back for class. So I'll see everyone soon. Bye!